The millionaire humiliated her in front of everyone. You don't belong here. But when he discovered who she really was, his world crumbled in seconds. This signature is worth $800 million. Do you think a cleaning lady can understand these documents? Leonardo Blackwood let out a cruel laugh as he waved the papers in Sofia Martinez's face. What he didn't know was that he was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. Sofia Martinez was 34 years old and had been cleaning the offices of Blackwood Industries for 3 months. Every night she would come in at 10 p.m. when the executives had already left and would leave at 6 a.m. before they returned. She was invisible, exactly as she needed to be. But that night, everything changed. It was 11 p.m. when Sofia pushed her cleaning cart towards the boardroom on the 30th floor. The door should have been closed at that hour, but it was ajar. Angry voices emanated from within. Sofia paused, debating whether to continue or return later. It's impossible. I've been at this for 3 weeks, and I can't decipher these clauses. Leonardo Blackwood's voice boomed with frustration. I need this contract signed by Friday, or we lose the biggest acquisition in the company's history. Sofia heard the sound of papers being thrown onto the table. Curiosity overcame caution, and she peeked slightly through the open door. Leonardo stood in front of a table covered in documents, his tie loosened. His perfectly combed hair now disheveled from repeatedly running his hands through it. Around him, 5 equally exhausted-looking executives stared at the same papers with expressions of defeat. Mr. Blackwood, Vanessa Reed, his executive assistant, spoke with a tired voice. Perhaps we should hire Morrison and Associates. They specialize in. And admit, we can't solve this ourselves? Leonardo cut her off sharply. Do you know how much they charge per hour? Do you have any idea how we'll look if it gets out that Blackwood Industries' legal team couldn't handle an international contract? But sir, this contract is in combined German and French legal language. The subsidiary clauses reference 3 different legal systems. It's extremely complex. Then what will I pay you a 6-figure salary for? Leonardo slammed his fist on the table, making the documents jump. What do I have a team of lawyers graduated from top-tier universities for, if they can't solve this? The silence that followed was heavy. The executives exchanged uncomfortable glances. One of them, Richard Stone, the 52-year-old legal vice president, finally spoke. Leonardo, with all due respect, we need to accept that this is beyond our current scope. The deadline is in 4 days. There's no human way to... I don't want excuses. I want solutions. Sofia should have left at that moment. She should have quietly closed the door and continued with her work. But her eyes had fallen on the documents scattered on the table, and something on those pages caught her attention. From where she stood, she could partially see the header, Intercontinental Holdings Group Merger and Acquisition. Her mind automatically began to process the words, cross-border merger, acquisition, subsidiary liability clauses. Without realizing it, Sofia had stepped into the room. The slight squeak of her cleaning cart's wheel made all heads turn towards her. What on earth are you doing here? Leonardo's voice cut through the air like a knife. His gray eyes stared at her with a mix of surprise and fury. Who gave you permission to enter? Sofia froze. All the executives watched her with expressions ranging from annoyance to curiosity. She swallowed hard, her heart pounding. I'm sorry, sir. The door was open. I came to clean, but I heard voices. And you decided to eavesdrop? Leonardo walked towards her with long, menacing strides. Do you know what we're discussing here? Do you have any idea how much the documents on that table are worth? No, sir. These contracts are confidential. Top corporate secret. And you? He pointed an accusing finger at her. You just violated your confidentiality agreement by entering here without authorization. Panic seized Sofia. She couldn't lose this job. Not now. Not when Valentina needed that surgery. Not when every dollar counted to keep a roof over their heads. Mr. Blackwood, please. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. I just came to clean, I swear. Vanessa! Leonardo turned to his assistant, without taking his eyes off Sofia. Call security. I want this woman escorted out of the building immediately. And first thing tomorrow morning, I want her termination processed. No. The word escaped Sofia with more force than she intended. Please, Mr. Blackwood. I have a daughter. I need this job. I can't lose it. You should have thought about that before meddling in matters that don't concern you. Leonardo made a dismissive gesture with his hand. The corporate world is no place for people who don't understand boundaries and protocols. Something in those words ignited a spark within Sofia. Perhaps it was the exhaustion of working 3 jobs. Perhaps it was the desperation of seeing her stability crumble again. Or perhaps it was the absolutely condescending tone with which this man treated her as if she were less than human. "You're right," Sophia said, her voice trembling but clear. "I don't understand the corporate world, but I do understand those documents on your table." The silence that fell over the room was absolute. Leonardo looked at her as if she had just said the most ridiculous thing in the world. Then he began to laugh. It wasn't a gentle laugh, but a cruel cackle full of absolute disdain. "Did you hear that?" he said to his executives, who watched the scene with expressions ranging from uncomfortable to curious. "The cleaning lady understands international merger contracts that we, with our degrees and masters, can't decipher." Some executives let out nervous chuckles. Others averted their gaze, evidently uncomfortable with the situation. "It's not a joke, sir," Sophia continued, knowing she was digging her own grave but unable to stop. "That document you're holding is a merger contract under mixed German-French jurisdiction with European Union subsidiary clauses. The reason you can't find the tax liability section is because it's coded in Annex C, not in the main body." Leonardo's laughter abruptly stopped. He looked at her with narrowed eyes, his expression shifting from mockery to confusion. "What are you talking about?" "The contract." Sophia pointed towards the table, her voice gaining confidence despite her fear. "It has 3 levels of legal language. The first level is in standard French, the second in legal German, and the third level, which contains the actual protective clauses, is in archaic European legal Latin. That's why you can't find it. You're looking at the wrong level." Richard Stone slowly stood up, his face showing something akin to shock. "How? How do you know that?" Sophia hesitated. She had said too much. She had revealed too much, but there was no turning back. "I used to work in legal translation." "Before legal translation?" Leonardo repeated, his voice laced with disbelief. "And now you clean floors?" "Circumstances change, mister." "Blackwood." Sophia lowered her gaze. "Life doesn't always go as planned." "This is absurd." Leonardo shook his head, but something in his expression had changed. He walked to the table and picked up the document Sophia had mentioned. "You say Annex C has the subsidiary tax coding under Article 47, Paragraph 3, Subsection B, but it's written in Latin nomenclature that appears decorative, but it's not. It's active legal language." Vanessa quickly approached the table, picking up another document. "Sir, she's right. There's Latin text here that we assumed was just traditional formatting, but if you read it as active language—" "My God," Richard whispered, reading over Vanessa's shoulder. "We've been ignoring half a dozen clauses because we thought they were decorative. This completely changes the interpretation of the contract." Leonardo looked at Sophia with an expression she couldn't decipher. It wasn't exactly surprise or exactly suspicion. It was something more complex. "Who are you, really?" The question came out like an accusation. Sophia took a deep breath. This was the moment when everything could fall apart or perhaps change. "My name is Sofia Martinez. I graduated with honors in international law from a reputable university. I specialized in European corporate law and worked for 5 years at Sterling & Finch LLP as a senior legal translator. I handled contracts in 7 languages. You could hear a pin drop in that room." "Then what on earth are you doing cleaning floors?" Leonardo asked. And for the first time that night, his voice held no mockery, only genuine confusion. "My husband died in a construction accident 3 years ago. Medical debts consumed all our savings. I lost my home. I lost everything. The firm fired me when I had to take time off to care for my traumatized daughter. No one wants to hire a 4-year-old lawyer with a 3-year employment gap and 0 references because you left your last job for personal reasons." The words came out with a mix of pain and defiance. "So you do what you have to do to survive. You clean floors, you work 3 jobs, and you're grateful to have even that." The silence was deafening. Leonardo stared at her, and Sophia could see the wheels turning in his mind. When he spoke, his voice had a calculating tone that sent shivers down her spine. "Can you decipher this contract?" "What?" "This contract, the one that has been driving my lawyers crazy for 3 weeks. Can you decipher it?" Sophia looked at the documents scattered on the table. From where she stood, she could see at least 24 pages in different languages. "It was complex, yes, but not impossible. Not for someone with her training. I'd probably need time to review everything completely. But yes, I think I could identify the critical clauses and perform a full risk analysis." Leonardo crossed his arms over his chest, a strange smile beginning to form on his lips. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a shark that had just smelled blood in the water. "Interesting. Very interesting." He turned to his executives. "Everyone out!" "Mr. Blackwood," Vanessa began. I said, "Out now." The executives exchanged glances but obeyed, gathering their tablets and files. Richard was the last to leave, casting a worried glance towards Sofia, before closing the door. Now it was just Leonardo and Sofia in that enormous room, with a panoramic view of the illuminated city. "I have a proposal for you," Leonardo said, slowly walking around the table. "You're clearly smarter than you appear, more capable, more valuable. I don't like your tone, Mr. Blackwood. I don't care if you like it or not. Listen to my offer." He stopped in front of her, his gray eyes locking onto hers. "Decipher this entire contract. Identify every hidden clause, every risk, every advantage. Give me an analysis I can use to close this merger. And why would I do that? Because if you do, I'll pay you $50,000 cash this week." Sofia felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. It was more money than she had seen together in years. She could pay for Valentina's surgery. She could pay debts. She could breathe for the first time in 3 years. And if I can't? Leonardo's smile widened, and there was something cruel about it. "Then not only will you be fired, I'll make sure you never work for any law firm in this city again. I'll call every contact I have. Your name will be mud. That's blackmail. That's business. Do you accept or not?" Sofia looked at the documents on the table, then at Leonardo. This man despised her, saw her as something to use and discard, but he was also offering her a way out, an opportunity to save her daughter. "How much time do I have?" 72 hours. The contract must be signed by noon Friday. I'll need access to legal databases, European references, legal Latin dictionaries. You'll have everything you need. Vanessa will give you access." Sofia extended her hand. "Deal." Leonardo looked at her hand for a moment. That hand with fingers reddened by cleaning products, short, unpolished nails. Then he shook it. His grip was firm, almost painfully strong. "Don't disappoint me," he said in a low, threatening voice. "I'm not generous with those who fail me. I don't plan to fail." "Good. Start now. You have access to this room for the next 72 hours. Vanessa will bring you coffee and food. You don't leave here until it's done. Now, tonight, every minute counts. Either you start now, or the offer is off." Sofia thought of Valentina, asleep at Mrs. Davis's house, who watched her when she worked night shifts. She thought of the medical bills piling up in their small apartment. She thought of the opportunity before her. "I need to make a call to let them know I won't be home. 5 minutes, then to work." When Leonardo left the room, Sofia collapsed into one of the leather chairs. Her hands trembled. What had she just done? What had she just gotten herself into? She called Mrs. Davis, a 60-year-old woman who adored Valentina. "Mrs. Davis, I need a huge favor. Can you keep Valentina tonight? Maybe tomorrow too. Something came up at work." "Are you okay, dear? You sound strange." I'm fine. It's just complicated. You know Valentina is always welcome here. Don't worry, but take care of yourself." "Yes." When she hung up, Sofia looked at the mountain of documents in front of her. Hundreds of pages, multiple languages, 72 hours. It was impossible, but she had done the impossible before. She picked up the first document and began to read. 3 floors below, Leonardo entered his private office where Vanessa waited with a worried expression. "Sir, are you sure about this? We just met this woman. We know nothing about her beyond what she told us. That's why I want you to investigate everything about Sofia Martinez. And I mean everything. Employment, history, education, medical, financial. I want to know if she's telling the truth or if she's a brilliant scam artist. And if she's real, if she can really do what she says." Leonardo smiled, and there was something almost predatory in that smile. "Then we've just found a bargain, a senior lawyer for the price of a cleaning employee. Imagine how much we can save." "Sir, that's unethical, Vanessa. Business isn't about ethics. It's about opportunity. And this woman just fell into our hands." What Leonardo didn't know was that Sofia Martinez harbored secrets much bigger than her law degree. Secrets that, when they came to light, would not only shatter his arrogance, but reveal a truth that would shake the very foundations of Blackwood Industries. Because Sofia wasn't cleaning those floors by accident, she was there for a reason, and that reason was about to explode in the most devastating way possible. In the boardroom, surrounded by documents, and with only a desk lamp illuminating her work, Sofia Martinez began to decipher the contract, but she also began to execute a plan she had been preparing for months. A plan for justice, a plan for redemption, a plan that would teach Leonardo Blackwood that the people he trampled could rise, and when they did, his fall would be epic. The clock read 11:47 p.m. 72 hours had begun to tick. Sophia had been without sleep for 17 hours when her eyes found what she had been looking for. It was 1 p.m. the next day, and the city buzzed with life outside the windows, while she remained locked in that boardroom, surrounded by papers, legal dictionaries, and empty coffee cups. "My God," she whispered, her fingers trembling over the document she had just translated. It couldn't be true, but there it was, written in archaic legal Latin, hidden in the annex everyone had ignored. The door opened, and Leonardo Blackwood entered in his impeccable suit, as if 17 hours hadn't passed for him. He had probably slept in his luxury penthouse, showered, had breakfast at some expensive restaurant, while she had survived on weak coffee and cookies. Vanessa had brought her. "Well?" Leonardo asked without preamble. "Do you have anything? Or are you wasting my time?" Sophia looked up. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, and her work clothes wrinkled after so many hours. But her eyes gleamed with something that made Leonardo pause. "I have something, but I need you to sit down. I don't have time for dramatics. Tell me, what did you find?" "Mr. Blackwood, please sit." Something in her tone made Leonardo obey, albeit with an irritated expression. He sat on the other side of the table, crossing his legs with that arrogant confidence that characterized him. Sophia took a deep breath. What she was about to say would change everything. "This contract you're about to sign is not a merger. What are you saying?" "Of course it's a merger. With Schmidt Industries from Germany. We negotiated it for 6 months. It's what it appears on the surface. But the hidden clauses in legal Latin tell another story." Sophia slid several translated documents towards him. "What you're really signing is a gradual transfer of control. In 5 years, Schmidt Industries won't be your partner. They'll be your owners." The silence that followed was absolute. Leonardo took the papers with hands that were no longer so steady. "Explain, now." Article 47, subsection B, which your team ignored because it was in Latin, establishes a progressive stock dilution clause. Each quarter for 5 years, your ownership percentage will automatically decrease by 0.3%. Sounds insignificant, right? Leonardo was reading fiercely, his eyes moving quickly over the translations. "But when you add it up over 20 quarters, Sophia continued, "that's 6 percentage points. And with the preferred bond conversion clauses in Article 52, which you also ignored, your opponents can force debt-to-equity conversion at specific times. In year 5, if they execute all these clauses simultaneously, I lose majority control." Leonardo finished, his voice barely a whisper. His face had lost all color. "I lose my own company." "Exactly. And the worst part is Article 63, hidden in Annex D. If you try to resist or block any of these provisions, you face liquidation penalties of $500 million. Basically, by signing this, you're putting a noose around your neck. They hold the other end." Leonardo dropped the papers on the table. His hands ran through his hair, destroying his perfect hairstyle. Sophia watched him with a mix of satisfaction and something akin to pity. This man who had humiliated her, who had treated her like dirt, now looked utterly devastated. How? How did we not see it? His voice sounded broken. "I have a team of 12 lawyers, all graduates from top universities. We paid consultants. We reviewed this damned contract for months. Because it's specifically designed for you not to see it," Sophia explained, and her voice had lost its tone of victory. Only professionalism remained. Schmidt hired the best specialists in European corporate law, people who know every loophole, every legal obfuscation technique. This isn't incompetence on your team's part. It's malicious brilliance on the opposing team's. Leonardo stood abruptly, walking towards the windows. The city stretched below, indifferent to his personal crisis. Sophia could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "When am I supposed to sign this?" "Tomorrow, at noon." My God, it was barely a whisper. "If I don't sign, we lose the European expansion opportunity. Our shareholders will crucify me. The stock price will fall. But if I sign, I eventually lose everything." Leonardo turned around, and Sophia saw something in his eyes she never expected to see. Genuine fear. Not the arrogance of the man who had fired her. Not the cruelty of the boss who humiliated employees. Just pure fear from a man watching his empire crumble. Is there any way out? Sophia had been waiting for that question. She stood up, walking to the other side of the table, where she had organized another pile of documents. "There is one, but you won't like it. At this point, tell me anything. Completely renegotiate from scratch. That's impossible. The time. We still have 36 hours enough if we work through the night. I can draft counter-proposals that close these loopholes. I can create mirror clauses that tie them down the same way they're trying to tie you down. Basically, turn their own trap against them. Leonardo looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. You can do that? I can, but I need complete authority, access to all corporate documents, sensitive financial information, and I need your legal team to follow my instructions without questioning me. You're asking for total control of the most important negotiation in this company's history? I'm offering to save you from losing that company. They looked at each other across the table, the air between them charged with tension that wasn't exactly hostile, but not friendly either. It was the mutual recognition of two people who needed each other in that moment, regardless of how they felt about it. Why? Leonardo asked finally. Why would you help me after how I treated you? Sophia didn't answer immediately. She walked to the window, looking at the city in the afternoon sun. When she spoke, her voice was soft but firm. Because you offered me $50,000 money I desperately need for my daughter's surgery. But also, she turned to look at him, because I'm good at what I do, and I've spent 3 years being invisible, being ignored, being treated as if I was worthless. This is my chance to remember who I was, who I am, and to get back at your humiliation in the process. A sad smile crossed Sophia's face. I won't lie and say that wouldn't be satisfying, but my main motivation is my daughter. Everything I do is for her. Leonardo nodded slowly, walked to the phone on the conference table, and pressed the intercom. Vanessa, come to the boardroom now, and bring Richard too. Minutes later, both entered with curious expressions. Vanessa looked impeccable as always, but there was concern in her eyes. Richard, with his gray hair and serious expression, seemed like a man who had seen too many corporate crises. What's going on? Richard asked. Leonardo pointed to the translated documents on the table. Read that. All of it, now. As Richard and Vanessa read, Sophia watched their reactions. Richard paled progressively. Vanessa put a hand to her mouth when she reached the section on stock dilution. This can't be real, Richard murmured. How did we not see it? Because we weren't looking in the right places, Leonardo replied. But Sophia found it, and she has a plan to fix it. All eyes turned to her. Sophia felt the weight of those stares. Skepticism mixed with desperation. But she also felt something she hadn't felt in years. Self-confidence. I need you to listen carefully, she began. And her voice had the authority of someone who knew exactly what she was talking about. We're going to dismantle this contract clause by clause. We're going to create counter-proposals that force them to negotiate in good faith, or publicly reveal their intent of corporate fraud. They're going to hate every word I write, but they'll have no choice. Why will they have no choice? Vanessa asked. Because I'm going to include mandatory transparency clauses. If they reject our amendments, they must publicly explain why, and those explanations would reveal their trap. They would be exposed to their own shareholders and investors. A slow smile began to form on Richard's face. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's risky, Leonardo countered. And if they simply reject everything and cancel the merger? Then you lose nothing you wouldn't have eventually lost, Sophia replied. But I believe they won't cancel. They've invested too much in this, and their pride won't allow them to admit they were caught. Leonardo paced in circles, processing. Sophia could see his mind working, evaluating risks, calculating probabilities. Finally, he stopped. Do it. You have carte blanche. Richard, you and your team work under Sophia's orders now. Vanessa, make sure she has everything she needs. Food, resources, access to any information she asks for. Sir Richard hesitated. Are you sure about putting so much power in the hands of someone we barely know? Do you have a better idea? Richard looked at Sophia, evaluating her. She held his gaze without flinching. I need to know something, Richard said directly to Sophia. Why is someone with your ability cleaning floors? It was the question everyone wanted to ask, but only he dared. Sophia felt the familiar pang of pain at the memory. Because life isn't fair, Mr. Stone. Because you can do everything right and still lose everything. Because when my husband died, the system didn't give me time to grieve. The bills kept coming. My daughter still needed to eat, and high-level jobs don't hire you when you have gaps in your resume, no matter how good you are. Her voice broke slightly on the last words, but she recovered quickly. But that doesn't mean I forgot how to do my job. It just means I haven't had a chance to prove it until now. Richard nodded, his expression softening. Then, let's show them what you're made of. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. The entire legal team of Blackwood Industries was summoned. 12 lawyers, 3 legal assistants, 2 international law specialists, all looking at Sofia with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Ladies and gentlemen," Leonardo announced when everyone was gathered, "this is Sofia Martinez. For the next 30 hours, she is in charge of the renegotiation of the Schmidt contract. Everything goes through her. Every final decision is hers. Understood?" The silence was deafening. Several lawyers exchanged incredulous glances. A young woman of about 28, evidently fresh out of law school, timidly raised her hand. "Excuse me, Mr. Blackwood." "She's what?" "The cleaning employee you saw yesterday," Leonardo cut her off. "Yes. She also happens to be a lawyer specializing in European corporate law who just saved this company from a multi-million-dollar fraud that none of you detected." The silence became awkward. Sofia felt all those eyes on her, judging her, doubting her, but she didn't care anymore. She had spent 3 years being invisible. She wasn't going to be invisible ever again. "All right," Sofia spoke, her voice clear and authoritative. "We're going to work in teams. I need 3 groups. Group 1, review all financial clauses. Group 2, all governance clauses. Group 3, all dispute resolution clauses. Each group reports to me every 2 hours with a complete summary." The lawyers continued to stare at her, unmoving. "Did you not hear me?" Her voice rose slightly. "We have 30 hours to rewrite a contract that would normally take 3 months. We don't have time for bruised egos or corporate hierarchies. Either we work together now, or tomorrow, we're all looking for new jobs. Is that clear?" Something in her tone, in the pure determination of her words, broke the resistance. The lawyers began to move, forming groups, picking up documents. Richard approached Sofia with an impressive smile. "Half these guys have been here for years, and I've never seen them move so fast." "That's because they know I'm right," Sofia replied, organizing papers. "And because there's finally someone who knows exactly what to do instead of just pretending." The hours flew by in a work frenzy. Sofia moved between the groups, correcting translations, identifying problems, rewriting clauses with surgical precision. Her mind, dormant for 3 years of manual labor, had fully reawakened, and it was brilliant. At 2 a.m., when most of the team was exhausted, Sofia was still working. Vanessa brought her coffee and a sandwich. "You need to rest, Sofia," Vanessa said softly. "You've been awake for almost 40 hours. You're going to collapse. I can sleep when this is over." Sofia looked up, and Vanessa saw tears glistening in her eyes. "If I rest, if I stop for even a minute, I'll remember that my daughter is home wondering why her mother hasn't come back. I'll remember all the bills I can't pay. I'll remember how I felt when your boss humiliated me in front of everyone. So no, I can't rest. I can only keep going." Vanessa sat down next to her, ignoring corporate protocol. "Leonardo can be cruel. I know. I've worked for him for years. But what he did to you was inexcusable." "Why do you work for someone like that?" Vanessa sighed. "Because behind all that arrogance is a man who built something real, who gave jobs to thousands of people, who somewhere along the way forgot that success means nothing if you trample others to achieve it. Do you think he can change?" "I think you're already changing him. The way he looks at you now is different. There's respect there. Fear too, perhaps, but definitely respect." In his office 3 floors above, Leonardo couldn't sleep. He had tried to go home but ended up returning to the building. Now he watched through the glass of the conference room where Sofia worked, surrounded by documents, her face illuminated only by the desk lamp. Richard appeared beside him, 2 coffee cups in hand. He offered one to Leonardo. "She's extraordinary," Richard said without preamble. "In 30 years in this business, I've never seen anyone work like that. She has the sharpest legal mind I've encountered." "I know, and you treated her like dirt." Leonardo took a sip of coffee, guilt weighing on him like a rock. "I know. Are you going to apologize? Would it do any good? Maybe not, but it would be the right thing to do." Leonardo watched Sofia laugh at something one of the young lawyers said, her face lighting up despite the exhaustion. She was beautiful when she smiled. He hadn't noticed her before because he had never really seen her. He had only seen a cleaning employee, an object, something disposable. "How did I become this?" Leonardo murmured, more to himself than to Richard. "What?" "The kind of man who humiliates a single mother over an accident, who measures people's worth by their bank account. My own mother cleaned houses for years, worked until her hands bled so I could study, and I treated Sofia exactly like people treated my mother. It's not too late to change, is it?" Leonardo turned to Richard. "I've built a reputation for being ruthless, cruel when necessary. Sharks don't survive by being kind, nor do they survive by eating their own kind," Richard replied. "Look at what you almost lost, due to arrogance. If Sofia hadn't been there, You would have signed your own corporate death warrant tomorrow, Bent. And all because you were too proud to listen to someone you considered inferior. The words hit hard because they were true. He had created that culture. He had rewarded decisions like Richard's. He had built an empire where the financial balance sheet was the only thing that mattered. "Do you know who Sofia Martinez is?" Leonardo asked, his voice dangerously low. "The lawyer who just saved the contract." "Yes, she did an incredible job. She's Javier's widow, the woman you paid $50,000 and shut the door on when she asked for more information." Richard froze. "What?" "She's been cleaning floors in this building for 3 months, the very floors where her husband died. And I, knowing none of this, humiliated her in front of everyone. I fired her, treated her as if she was nothing." The silence that followed was absolute. Vanessa watched from the doorway, tears in her eyes. "My God," Richard whispered finally. "She knows. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And when I do, I'm going to do what I should have done 3 years ago. Investigate properly, compensate fairly, and if we find negligence on our part..." Leonardo looked directly at Richard. "Someone is going to answer for it." "Leonardo, my career. Your career is the last thing I care about right now. A woman was widowed, a child left without a father, and we kept building towers and earning millions, as if nothing had happened." Richard stood with trembling dignity. "I understand. You want my resignation? I want the truth. Everything you know about that accident, every document, every testimony, every decision you made on my desk first thing tomorrow morning. And then we'll see if you deserve to stay or if you deserve something worse." When Richard left, Leonardo was left alone with Vanessa. She approached silently, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Are you okay?" "No, I'm nowhere near okay." Leonardo turned to her. "Vanessa, what kind of monster have I been?" "You're not a monster. You're a man who made serious mistakes, yes, but mistakes that can be corrected. How do I correct having destroyed a family?" "You can't, but you can try to make things right from now on." Leonardo returned to the folder, looking at the photos of the Martinez family. Javier with his broad smile, Sofia, years younger, with hope in her eyes. Valentina, barely a child. "She saved me," he murmured. "Sofia saved my company. She saved me from losing everything. And I probably destroyed her life without even knowing it. Then find a way to compensate her. Truly compensate her. How? With money? You saw how she rejected my help. She has too much pride. Maybe it's not about money. Maybe it's about truth, about justice, about admitting what was done wrong." Leonardo nodded slowly. "I need to talk to her before the meeting with Schmidt. His phone vibrated. A text message from an unknown number. "Mr. Blackwood, it's Sofia. We need to talk before today's meeting. There's something you need to know. Something about why I really agreed to help you. See you in your office at 8 a.m. Don't be late." Leonardo showed the message to Vanessa. "Go." She read it and sighed. She knows. She has to know. What do you think she's going to do? "I don't know. But whatever it is, you probably deserve it." Leonardo couldn't argue with that. He sat on his couch, looking at the city beginning to awaken, and for the first time in his life, he felt something he had never experienced before. Genuine fear of facing the consequences of his actions. At 8 a.m. sharp, Sofia Martinez entered Leonardo's office. She was no longer wearing cleaning clothes. She wore a simple but professional suit, her hair neatly pulled back, and in her eyes was a determination that made Leonardo instinctively stand. "Mrs. Martinez, I know that you know." Sofia interrupted him, her voice firm. "I know you investigated my past. I know you found out who my husband was. Sofia, I didn't know. When it all happened, I didn't know that one of our workers died, or I didn't know that your vice president prematurely closed the investigation to save money." Leonardo's silence was answer enough. "I thought so." Sofia walked to the windows, looking out at the construction site visible in the distance. The new phase always expanding, always building. "Do you see that tower? Phase 4 of your empire. Do you know how many workers are up there right now? Do you know if they have appropriate safety equipment? Do you know if someone is cutting corners again? I'm not going to let that happen again. No." Sofia turned to him, and there were tears in her eyes, but also fury. "How many times have you said that in the last 3 years? How many times have you thought about the man who died building your empire? Never. And that shames me more than you can imagine. Do you know the last thing my husband told me that morning?" Sofia's voice broke. "He told me that job would change our lives, that the pay was good, that we could finally save for Valentina's college. He was right. That job changed our lives, just not in the way we expected." Leonardo felt tears in his own eyes. Sophia, I'm sorry. I know those words aren't enough. But you're right. They're not enough. Nothing will be enough. Sophia took a USB drive from her pocket, placing it on Leonardo's desk. But this is a start. What is it? Evidence. Documents I copied while working on your contract. Falsified safety reports. Emails about budget cuts. Testimonies from other workers who witnessed the dangerous conditions. Everything you need to know. Exactly what happened the day my husband died. Leonardo looked at the USB drive as if it were a venomous snake. Why are you giving me this? Because I discovered something while working on your contract. I discovered that you didn't know, that Richard and others made decisions without your knowledge, that you were so busy building your empire that you didn't see what was happening in the foundations. That doesn't excuse me. No, it doesn't, but it means that maybe, just maybe, there's hope for you still. Sophia walked to the door, but before leaving, she turned one last time. The meeting with Schmidt is in 3 hours. I'll be there. I'll help you close that deal because I gave my word. But after that, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about justice, compensation, and what it really means to make things right. And if I refuse, then that USB goes straight to the media, and your empire crumbles in the most public and humiliating way possible. Sophia smiled, but there was no joy in that smile. The choice is yours, Mr. Blackwood, just as it was 3 years ago. When she left, Leonardo picked up the USB drive with trembling hands. The woman he had humiliated now had the power to destroy him completely. And the most ironic thing of all was that he deserved every second of that destruction. The question was, would he have the courage to do the right thing this time? In 3 hours, he would discover if he was the man he believed himself to be or the monster he had been all this time. The main conference room at Blackwood Industries had never felt so tense. It was 11 a.m., an hour before the crucial meeting with Schmidt Industries, and Leonardo had called an emergency board meeting with his full team. 12 executives sat around the mahogany table, Richard in a corner looking like he hadn't slept, Vanessa taking notes with a serious expression, and at the head of the table opposite Leonardo, Sofia Martinez, dressed in that simple but professional suit, looking at each person present with eyes that forgave nothing. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Leonardo began, his voice sounding different, more human, less authoritative. "Before Schmidt arrives, there's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you 3 years ago." The executives exchanged confused glances. Leonardo never called meetings to apologize or make confessions. This was uncharted territory. Leonardo took the USB drive Sofia had given him and plugged it into the large screen. 3 years ago, a man named Javier Martinez died on one of our construction sites, Phase 2, of this very building. He paused, looking directly at Richard. That report was a lie. The silence in the room was deafening. Several executives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Leonardo pressed a button, and the screen filled with scanned documents, emails, internal reports, photographs of faulty safety equipment that was never replaced. The truth is, we cut corners. We prioritized speed over safety. And when someone died as a result, we covered up our responsibility to avoid lawsuits and delays. His voice broke slightly. We left a widow with $50,000 and a child without a father, and we kept building as if nothing had happened. A young executive, Patricia Evans from Human Resources, put a hand to her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. "Some of you knew," Leonardo continued, his gaze sweeping the room. "Others didn't. But we are all complicit because we built a culture where numbers matter more than people, where profits justify any means." "Why are you telling us this now?" asked Mark Miller, the CFO. "Why after 3 years?" Leonardo pointed to Sofia. "Because Javier Martinez's widow is sitting in this room. The woman I humiliated days ago. The woman who has been cleaning our floors for 3 months. The woman who, despite everything we did to her, just saved this company from a multi-million-dollar fraud." All eyes turned to Sofia. Some faces showed shock, others shame, others something akin to horror. Sofia slowly stood up. When she spoke, her voice was clear, but laden with contained emotion. "My name is Sofia Martinez, and yes, my husband died building this company. But I'm not here for revenge." She paused, looking at each person. "I'm here because I discovered something while investigating. I discovered that this isn't just about my husband. It's about a pattern." She pressed another button on the remote control. The screen changed, showing a list of names and dates. In the last 5 years, Blackwood Industries has had 7 construction accidents classified as operator error. 7 workers dead or seriously injured, 7 families destroyed. And in each case, the investigation was prematurely closed with minimal compensation. The impact of those words fell on the room like a bomb. Patricia Evans began to cry openly. Mark Miller looked as if he was about to vomit. That's impossible, someone murmured from the back. It's all documented, Sophia replied. Every case, every cover-up decision, every email where someone decided it was cheaper to pay compensation than to implement appropriate safety measures. Richard stood up, his face red. Sophia, you need to understand the context. The construction industry is inherently dangerous. Not all accidents are avoidable. They are not? Sophia turned to him, and there was fire in her eyes. The faulty safety harness that broke when my husband fell 15 floors was not avoidable. The fact that that harness had been reported as defective 3 times before did not make the accident avoidable. We didn't know. And you knew. Sophia's voice echoed in the room. There's an email from you rejecting the purchase of new harnesses 2 weeks before my husband died. It's on the screen right now. Everyone looked at the screen. There it was, in black and white. An email from Richard Stone to his construction team. Delay safety equipment purchase until next fiscal quarter. Budget must prioritize construction speed. Richard collapsed into his chair, utterly defeated. There was no possible defense. Leonardo spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. Richard, you're fired, effective immediately. And I'm going to recommend that you face criminal charges for negligence. Leonardo, please, Richard began. 20 years of friendship, Leonardo interrupted him. 20 years working together. And you never told me? You never gave me the chance to do the right thing? Because you knew I would, Richard replied bitterly. And it would have cost millions. It would have destroyed our growth. Then let me be absolutely clear about something. Leonardo stood up, his hands flat on the table. As of today, this company changes completely. No more safety cutbacks, no more cover-ups, no more treating workers as numbers on a spreadsheet. That's going to cost, Mark began. I don't care what it costs. Leonardo cut him off. Do you know what the real cost is? Look at Sophia. Look at a mother who had to clean floors after being a lawyer because we destroyed her life. That is the real cost, and I will never, ever allow it to happen again. The silence that followed was different. It wasn't the uncomfortable silence from before. It was the silence of people confronting truths they had been avoiding. Patricia Evans timidly raised her hand. Mr. Blackwood, what's going to happen to the other families? The other 6 Mrs. Martinez mentioned? We're going to contact all of them. We're going to reopen every investigation. And we're going to compensate them appropriately, not with $50,000, but with what they truly deserve. That could be, Mark did quick, mental calculations. 10, 15 million. Easily. Then it will be 10 or 15 million. We will find it. Vanessa looked up from her notes. Sir, the meeting with Schmidt is in 30 minutes. We need to prepare. Leonardo looked at Sophia. Are you still willing to help us? After all this, after what you've just heard, are you still going to be there? Sophia considered it for a long moment. Everyone in the room held their breath, waiting for her answer. I'll be there, she said finally. Not for you, not for this company, but for the 7 families who are going to receive justice. For the workers who are going to be safer from now on, and because my husband taught me that when you give your word, you keep it no matter what. At noon, the representatives from Schmidt Industries arrived. 3 men in expensive suits led by Klaus Schmidt himself, a 60-year-old German. With silver hair and the expression of someone accustomed to winning every negotiation, Mr. Blackwood. Klaus extended his hand with a confident smile. Ready to make history today, I hope? History? Definitely, Leonardo replied, shaking his hand firmly. But perhaps not the one you expected. Klaus's smile wavered slightly. Excuse me? Please, have a seat, gentlemen. We have a lot to discuss. When everyone was seated, Leonardo slid the revised contract, prepared by Sophia, across the table. This is our counter-proposal. Klaus took the document, beginning to leaf through it with a casual expression. But as he read, his face began to change. Confidence gave way to confusion, then annoyance, finally something akin to alarm. What is this? Klaus dropped the contract on the table. This is not what we negotiated. You're right. Sophia spoke for the first time, and Klaus seemed to notice her presence. It's not what you negotiated. It's what you should have negotiated if you had been honest from the start. Who are you? Klaus asked disdainfully. I'm the lawyer who deciphered your little hostile takeover plan disguised as a merger, and I'm the person who rewrote every trap clause you hid in archaic legal Latin. One of Klaus's assistants, a younger man named Stefan, mumbled something in German. Klaus responded in the same language, but Sophia interrupted them. I can understand you, she said in perfect German. And yes, I found all the hidden clauses, every single one. The shock on the Germans' faces was visible. Klaus leaned back in his chair, completely re-evaluating the situation. Mr. Blackwood. Klaus switched to English, his tone becoming more formal. It seems you've acquired more competent legal counsel than we anticipated. Anticipated, Leonardo repeated. Interesting choice of words. Almost as if you planned for my team not to be competent enough to detect your fraud. Fraud is a strong word. Prefer gradual misappropriation. Equity dilution by obfuscation? Sophia opened her laptop, turning it so Klaus could see the screen. I have 17 different legal terms for what you tried to do. All of them result in you taking control of Blackwood Industries in 5 years without paying the real value of the company. Klaus looked at the screen, his jaw tightening. These are standard negotiation tactics, aren't they? Richard spoke from his corner, surprising everyone. Despite his imminent firing, his professional pride had been wounded. This is sophisticated corporate fraud, and as someone who has done questionable things, I can recognize it when I see it. Who is this man? Stefan asked. Someone who is learning that there are consequences for dishonest actions, Leonardo replied. Something you are also about to learn. Klaus stood up. Mr. Blackwood, if you are not satisfied with the terms, we can simply cancel the merger. There are others. Sit down. Leonardo's voice had a steel edge. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to accept our revised terms, which are fair and equitable to both parties, or you're going to reject them. And if we reject them, Sophia pressed a button on her laptop. The large screen in the room came alive, displaying a document titled Legal Analysis of Transnational Corporate Fraud, Schmidt Industries versus Blackwood Industries. Then this document, Sophia explained, goes to every regulatory commission in Europe and Latin America. It goes to your shareholders. It goes to your business partners. It goes to every major financial news outlet. It would destroy us, Stefan whispered. Exactly as you tried to destroy us, Leonardo replied. The difference is we would do it with the truth. You tried it with deception. Klaus remained silent for a long moment, his mind clearly working to calculate options. Finally, he spoke, his voice tense. What are your exact terms? The next 2 hours were intense negotiation. Sophia led the discussion, dismantling each of Klaus's objections with surgical precision. Leonardo watched with a mixture of admiration and remorse. This brilliant woman had been cleaning his floors, invisible, ignored. Finally, at 3 p.m., Klaus extended his hand with a defeated expression. You have a deal, Mr. Blackwood, under your revised terms. When the Germans left, the room erupted in celebration. Executives hugged each other. Vanessa cried with relief. Even Richard managed a sad smile from his corner. But Leonardo only had eyes for Sophia, who had remained seated, looking out the windows at the city. You did it, Leonardo said, approaching her. You saved the company again. I didn't save it for you, Sophia replied, without looking at him. I saved it because behind this company are thousands of employees who don't deserve to lose their jobs due to your leadership's failings. I know. And Sophia, about what happened. About Javier. I can never compensate. You're right. You can't. She finally looked at him, and there were tears in her eyes. My daughter grew up without a father. I lost the love of my life. I spent 3 years in poverty, cleaning floors, feeling like I was worth nothing. Nothing you do will change that. Then tell me what I can do. Anything. Sophia stood up, facing him directly. You can start by being honest, completely honest. Why did you build this empire? What were you trying to prove? The question caught him off guard. Leonardo walked to the windows, looking at his reflection in the glass. My father was a construction worker, he began, his voice soft. Just like Javier. He died in an accident when I was 15. The company paid my mother $10,000 and told us we were lucky to get that. Sophia looked at him in shock. What? I swore that day that I would never be the person at the bottom, that I would rise to the top, that I would have so much power that no one could treat my family the way they treated mine. Leonardo turned to her, tears running down his face. But along the way, I became exactly the people I hated. I became the man who treats workers as disposable, who values money over lives. My God, Sophia whispered. When Richard closed the investigation into Javier, I was so focused on expanding, on building higher, bigger, faster, that I didn't even ask. I trusted him to handle those details. Leonardo practically spat out the last word. Because if I didn't know, I didn't have to bear the guilt. But you do bear it. Sophia said softly. I see it in your eyes. You've been carrying it since you found out. How do you live with that? How do you live knowing that your decisions destroyed families? I don't know, Sophia admitted. I'm still figuring out how to live with what your company did to me, but what I do know is that remorse without action is just self-pity. What actions do you want me to take? Sophia took a deep breath. I want you to open every file, every accident case. I want complete and independent investigations. I want the families to receive not only financial compensation but truth. I want them to know exactly what happened and why. I'll do it. I want you to implement new safety protocols, the best, not the legal minimum, but the maximum possible. Done. And I want you to create a memorial fund for the families, for the education of the children left without fathers, so that something good comes out of this tragedy. Leonardo nodded, unable to speak due to the lump in his throat. Does that redeem me? He asked finally. I don't know, Sophia replied honestly, but it's a start. They stood in silence, two people connected by tragedy and impossible circumstances, trying to find a path towards something akin to healing. Vanessa entered timidly. Excuse me, Sophia, there's someone here to see you. A 12-year-old girl ran in, launching herself into Sophia's arms. Valentina had arrived directly from school, still in her uniform. Mommy, Mrs. Davis told me you were here. What happened? Are you okay? I'm okay, sweetheart. Sophia hugged her tightly, inhaling the familiar scent of her shampoo, just tying up some loose ends. Valentina looked around the luxurious office, her eyes stopping on Leonardo. Is he the owner? Yes. The girl studied Leonardo with an intensity that made him feel as if he was being judged by someone far wiser than her years. My mom says you can be better than you've been, Valentina said finally. I hope she's right. Leonardo knelt to be at her height. I hope so too, and I'm going to try to be. For your mom, for you, for all the people I've disappointed. Can you bring my dad back? The question, so simple and devastating, almost destroyed him. No, I wish I could, but I can't. Then you better do everything else you promised. Valentina took her mother's hand. Because my mom has suffered enough. As Sophia and Valentina left, Leonardo was left alone in his office. He had won the negotiation with Schmidt, but he had lost something much more important in the process of building his empire, his humanity. The question now was whether he could recover it, and whether Sofia Martinez, the woman he had unknowingly destroyed, would be the person to help him find it again, or if some things, once broken, simply cannot be repaired. 3 weeks had passed since the meeting with Schmidt Industries, and the Blackwood Industries building felt different. It wasn't just the new safety equipment visible on every construction floor, nor the giant signs proclaiming, "Safety is non-negotiable." It was something deeper, a change in the very air. Leonardo was in his office, surrounded by files he had been obsessively reviewing. 7 folders, 7 families, 7 lives, destroyed by decisions that had been made in the name of efficiency and profit. A soft knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was Vanessa. Mr. Blackwood, the families are here. They all agreed to come. Leonardo felt his stomach clench. All 7? All of them. Sophia contacted them personally. She explained what you wanted to do. Is she here? Waiting in the conference room with Valentina. Leonardo took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been dreading and needing at the same time. He stood up, adjusting his tie with hands that trembled slightly. When he entered the conference room, he stopped short. It wasn't just 7 families. There were children, wives, some elderly parents. More than 30 people filled the room, all looking at him with expressions ranging from anger to cautious curiosity. Sophia stood by the window, with Valentina beside her. She gave him an encouraging nod. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, Leonardo began, his voice less firm than he would have liked. I know many of you have reasons to hate me, to not want to be in the same room as me. A woman in her 40s with 2 small children clinging to her skirt spoke in a harsh voice. Then get to the point, Mr. Blackwood. Why are we here? You're here because I owe you something I should have given you years ago. The truth. Leonardo pressed a button, and the large screen came alive. Documents, emails, complete investigation reports, appeared everything Sophia had discovered. And more. Information that had taken weeks to compile with independent investigators. 5 years ago, Leonardo began, pointing to the first case on the screen. Michael Torres died on one of our construction sites. The official report said it was because he didn't use safety equipment, but the truth is, the equipment we gave him was defective. It had been reported as such 3 times. No one replaced it because it was cheaper to ignore the complaints. A woman began to cry silently. Michael Torres's widow. Leonardo continued case by case. Each name, each truth, each decision that had prioritized money over lives. His voice broke occasionally, but he didn't stop. These people deserve the full truth, no matter how much it hurt him to give it. When he reached Javier Martinez's case, he looked directly at Sofia. Javier Martinez was a husband and father, a dedicated worker who trusted that we would keep him safe. We gave him a harness that had been reported as defective. He fell 15 floors, and when he died, my company paid his widow $50,000 and closed the investigation in 3 days. Valentina squeezed her mother's hand. Sofia had tears running down her cheeks but kept her gaze steady. "I cannot bring back any of these men," Leonardo said, his own voice breaking completely. "I cannot give you back the lost years, the memories that were never created, the moments that were stolen from them. But I can do 3 things. He pressed a button. New documents appeared on the screen. First, real compensation, not $50,000. Each family will receive $1 million immediately. No conditions, no non-disclosure agreements, no waiver of legal rights. A murmur of shock swept through the room. The widow who had spoken earlier put a hand to her mouth. Second, the Javier Martinez Memorial Fund. Sofia looked up sharply. Leonardo hadn't told her he would name the fund that. This fund will have $20 million, Leonardo continued. It will be administered by an independent committee, not by me. It will pay for complete education for all the children of the deceased workers' college, master's degrees, doctorates, whatever it is they choose to study. The children in the room were beginning to understand what that meant. A teenage girl of about 15 began to cry, hugging her mother. And third, Leonardo pulled out a final folder. I have ordered a full criminal investigation into each case. Richard Stone has already been fired. But anyone else in this company who made negligent decisions will face legal consequences, including me. If the investigation determines you are responsible, are you willing to go to prison? Asked a young man, probably the son of one of the victims. If that's what I deserve. Yes. The silence was absolute. These people had come expecting another corporate cover-up, empty words, and checks designed to buy their silence. But this was different. Michael Torres's widow stood up. She was a small woman with gray hair and hands that trembled with age and emotion. "Mr. Blackwood," she said in a soft but firm voice, "my husband was a good man, an honest worker, who only wanted to give his family a better life. When he died, your company treated me as if I were a nuisance, as if my pain was a public relations problem." Leonardo nodded, unable to speak. "But today," she continued, tears running down her wrinkled face, "today I see a man who is at least trying to do the right thing. Late, yes. Insufficient to erase the damage. Absolutely. But something." She walked towards Leonardo, and he instinctively stepped back, expecting a slap he would deserve. Instead, she took his hands in hers. "Make sure no other wife has to go through what I went through. Make sure no other child loses their father to someone's greed. Do that, and maybe, just maybe, something good will come out of this tragedy." Leonardo completely broke down. He fell to his knees, sobbing as he hadn't cried since his own father's death. All the emotions he had been holding back for weeks, for years, poured out in a torrent. "I'm sorry," he repeated again and again. "I'm so sorry." Sofia approached, kneeling beside him. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Get up, Mr. Blackwood. These people don't need to see you cry. They need to see you act." She was right. Leonardo wiped his tears, getting to his feet with Sofia's help. "You have my word," he said to the families. "This will never happen again, and I will dedicate the rest of my life to ensuring that." 2 days later, Leonardo summoned Sofia to his office. She arrived with a cautious expression, not knowing what to expect. "Please sit," Leonardo said, indicating a chair. "There's something I need to ask you. What is it? Why did you do it? Why did you help me when you could have destroyed me? You had the evidence, you had the story. The media would have torn my reputation up." Sofia sat down, considering the question carefully. "Because I discovered something while investigating you. I discovered that your father died just like Javier, that you built all of this, trying to escape the pain of being the family at the bottom. And I realized that destroying you wouldn't bring Javier back. It would only create more pain, more victims. But I deserve to be destroyed. Perhaps, but Valentina taught me something." Sofia smiled softly. She asked me if her father would want me to spend my life hating you or building something better. And she was right. Javier would want me to choose healing over revenge. Leonardo opened a desk drawer, pulling out an envelope. "There's something else I want to give you, beyond the compensation from the fund. Sofia opened the envelope. Inside were legal documents. It took her a moment to process what she was seeing. You're giving me shares in the company? 5%. Enough to have a real voice in corporate decisions. I want you to be part of the board, to make sure I never forget what's truly important. Leonardo, I can't. Please. He used her first name for the first time. I can't do this alone. I just need someone to keep me honest, to remind me why we're doing this. Sofia looked at the documents, then at Leonardo, then back at the documents. Do you know what Valentina told me last night? She asked finally. What did she say? That when she grows up, she wants to be an architect. She wants to design buildings where people are safe, where workers are valued, where no one else loses their father due to someone's negligence. Leonardo felt tears sting his eyes again. She's wise beyond her years. She is, because she had to be. Because life taught her lessons no child should learn so young. Sofia closed the envelope. I accept, but not for the money. I accept because I want to make sure my daughter lives in a world where what happened to Javier never happens to anyone else. 6 weeks later, at the new Blackwood Industries construction site, something extraordinary was happening. Leonardo had invited all the families, the media, the workers. Construction had stopped for the day for a special ceremony. In the spot where Javier had fallen, where his life had ended, a monument now stood. It wasn't ostentatious or flashy. It was simple. A plaque with the names of the 7 workers who had lost their lives, and the words, "We will never forget. We will never repeat." But what made the ceremony special was what came next. Leonardo had asked each family to choose a tree to plant in memory of their loved one. 7 trees around the monument, each with a small plaque. When it was Sofia and Valentina's turn, the girl held a small oak tree in her hands. My daddy loved oak trees, Valentina said to the gathered crowd, her voice clear despite her tears. He said they were strong but flexible, that they could withstand storms because their roots were deep. Sofia helped her plant the tree in the ground. As they did, Leonardo knelt beside them. Javier was right about oak trees, he said softly, and he was right about something else, that true strength doesn't come from being inflexible. It comes from having deep roots in what truly matters. Valentina looked at him with those wise eyes. What are your roots now, Mr. Blackwood? You, he replied without hesitation. All these families, every worker, on every site, they are my roots now, and I will never forget it again. The girl considered this, then nodded. Okay, but I'll be watching, to make sure. Leonardo let out a laugh that was half sob. I wouldn't expect anything less. That night, after everyone had left, Sofia returned to the site alone. She stood in front of the tree they had planted in Javier's memory, gently touching the young leaves. We did it, my love, she whispered. Not the way I planned, not with revenge or destruction, but we did it. Your death will mean something. It will save lives, and our daughter will grow up knowing that her father was a hero who, even in death, changed the world. She heard footsteps behind her. Leonardo approached slowly, respecting her private moment. Are you okay? He asked. I don't know, Sofia admitted. I thought that when we got here, when we had justice, I would feel better, but I just feel empty. Grief doesn't follow a linear timeline. My mother told me that after my father died. I thought it was nonsense at the time. Now I understand. They stood in silence, 2 people, connected by tragedy, trying to build something akin to peace. Do you know what the strangest thing is? Sofia asked finally. What? That I don't hate you. I should. It makes sense that I would hate you, but I can't, because I see too much of Javier in what you're trying to do now. He also believed that people could change, that no one was beyond redemption. I don't deserve that comparison. Probably not, but you're working to deserve it, and that counts for something. Leonardo took something from his pocket. It was an old photo, yellowed with time. He showed it to Sofia. In the image was a young man in construction work clothes with a yellow hard hat and a huge smile. He was practically identical to Leonardo. My father, he explained, taken a month before he died. He had that smile even after 12 hours of work in the sun. Because he loved what he did. He loved building things that lasted. He looked a lot like you physically. Yes, but in character, I hope to be more like Javier. Good men who just wanted to take care of their families, who deserved to be safe while they worked. Sofia took the photo, studying it carefully. What was his name? Anthony Blackwood. He was 32 when he died. Left my mother with 3 children and debts that took us years to pay. Does your mother still live? Yes, in a retirement community on the coast. I visited her last week. I told her everything about Javier, About you. About the changes we're making." "What did she say?" Leonardo smiled, though his eyes were moist. "She said she was finally proud of me, that it had taken a long time, but that I was finally honoring my father's memory in the right way." Tears began to roll down Sofia's cheeks. Javier would have said the same. He never held grudges. He always saw the best in people. "He sounds like an extraordinary man." He was, and I wish you two had met. I think you would have gotten along well. They stood by the young tree until the sun had completely set, two broken souls trying to heal in a world that had taken so much from them. 3 months later, at the inauguration ceremony of the new Blackwood Industries building, something unprecedented was happening. Leonardo had invited every worker who had participated in the construction onto the stage. Not just the engineers and architects, but the welders, the carpenters, the electricians, everyone. "This building," Leonardo spoke into the microphone, his voice amplified for the crowd of thousands, "was not built by me. It was built by these people behind me. And for the first time in this company's history, we are going to recognize that appropriately." He proceeded to name each worker one by one. 200 names. It took almost an hour, but no one complained. The crowd applauded after each name. When he finished, he pointed to an enormous plaque in the lobby of the new building. Engraved on it were the 200 names along with a message. "This building stands thanks to the labor, dedication, and sacrifice of these individuals. May we never forget that behind every structure are human lives that deserve respect, safety, and dignity." The ovation was deafening. Sofia watched from the side of the stage with Valentina. Her daughter looked at her with bright eyes. "Mummy, Daddy would have been proud of what you did." Sofia hugged her daughter tightly. "I think so, my love. I think so. And are you proud?" "I'm proud that we found a way to turn our tragedy into something that will help others. That your father's name now represents safety and change, not just loss." Valentina remained thoughtful for a moment. "Mr. Blackwood approached. "Can you believe he offered me an internship? He says that when I'm in college, I can work in his architecture department." "And what did you tell him?" "That I'd think about it, but if I accept, it will be because I want to make sure he's really keeping his promises." Sofia let out a laugh that was half pride, half awe. "That's my girl." After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, Leonardo approached them. "Sofia, there's something else I want to show you." He led her to the top floor of the new building. There, in what would be the main boardroom, something was covered with a cloth. "Before I reveal this," Leonardo said nervously, "I want you to know that you can tell me if it's too much, if it's inappropriate." "Yes, show me." Sofia gently interrupted him. Leonardo removed the cloth. Beneath it was an enormous painting. It was a mural painted by a famous artist, depicting construction workers from different eras, men and women of all ages and backgrounds, building something beautiful together. And in the center, recognizable to anyone who had seen the photos, was Javier Martinez, painted with his characteristic smile, his yellow hard hat, his hard-working hands. "I wanted everyone who enters this room to see what truly matters," Leonardo explained, his voice thick with emotion. "I wanted us to never forget that success is built on the backs of hard-working people, and honoring them is not optional, it is mandatory." Sofia was speechless. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at her husband's portrait, immortalized in the heart of the company's most important building. Valentina approached the painting, gently touching her father's image. "He looks happy," she murmured, "as I remember him." "He should be happy, Leonardo," she said, "because what he helped build wasn't just structures of steel and concrete. He built a legacy that will change how this industry works. That's immortality." Sofia finally found her voice. "Thank you for this, for everything, for having the courage to change." "Thank you, Sofia," Leonardo replied, "for giving me the opportunity to be better, for seeing potential for redemption where there was only guilt." They stood there, 3 people connected by loss and hope, looking at the mural that represented everything they had fought to achieve. Outside, the city continued its frenetic pace. But inside that building, something had fundamentally changed. Power no longer came only from wealth or position. It came from compassion, from responsibility, from remembering that every life matters. And on a small oak tree planted in memory of Javier Martinez, the roots grew deep roots that would sustain not only a tree but an entire legacy. A legacy of dignity, justice, and the unwavering belief that people can change. And when they do, they can transform the world.